Welcome to Turf Business TV and Talking Turf. Our panel today are some familiar faces. Jason Booth from the IOG, Darren Baldwin from Tottenham Hotspur, Stuart Kerrison from Essex County Cricket Club, and Lee Strutt from the Royal Automobile Club. The point that I wanted to put to you guys today was golf led the way in turf care for decades and decades and decades. Is it now time that golf can learn some stuff from other parts of the industry? Now, as you're a representative from golf, I think perhaps you can kick off.
I'll take it. I think there's a lot of development within the other sports. We touched upon earlier on about ryegrass development. I think one of the really interesting wake-up calls was when certainly football and that started using things like the corro to strip it off and reseed it, and all of a sudden some of the guys are sort of thinking in golf, actually that would be great for our tee tops. And I think there's quite a lot of development with the lighting rigs, seed germination. You have a very closed window, stadium. I think there's actually still a lot to be learned. I think, like I say, the perception is kind of golf stands out on its own, and I think that's just its physical size and its number of people that are involved in it. But I think actually we are still all really in the turf industry. We just separate off because of our own specialisms.
Stuart, you probably have got a similar situation to golf because you've got two types of surfaces to look after, whereas you've got three or four probably. Yeah. Would you think there's anything that you can bring to golf and teach them a lesson?
Well, maybe it's not so much to the golf side of it, but there is certainly the crossover. As Lee said about the corro, we use it on our ground at Chelmsford, and a lot of the other grounds have used it now. You go overseas and they strip back completely every year. And even 10 years ago, that was unheard of. People wouldn't think about doing anything like that. Different aeration machines that have come through cricket have been things like the deep drill, which they use on golf courses now to help with the drainage and that. And the Graydon, have you had a go at the Graydon Scarifier? I mean, that come through cricket in Australia. Right. Working on their solid pitches over there. They're supposed to be going through concrete, but you see them used on golf courses now. So things are evolving from all sports. I mean, football takes a big part of the lead with regards, because there's budgets at the end of the day. There is money in cricket, but not the same sort of money that's floating about in some of the football and that. But the lighting rigs, fantastic development. That will come from, what was that, from growers in Holland, wasn't it? Tulip growers or something like that? Roses. Yeah, so that's had a crossover to our side of it. But a lot of it comes down to cash. Yeah, where we can afford to do it. I think we should all learn about it. And this were another crossover with the different sports and that. Some of the machines you might use on golf, some of the chemicals you might use on golf courses and stuff. We're looking into wetting agents on cricket squares now, which has been floating about for a little while now. But I think that's going to get more and more prevalent. And but we need the development that you've done on your golf courses to start us off going in the right direction. I don't think golf's stabilised. In the old days it was like golf was learning everything, and it's gone a bit like that. Whereas football, cricket, they've all just took off now. We're playing catch up now. And in some respects we may well have overtook, but cricket certainly is still playing a bit of catch up with golf. But we're not a million miles off now.
Jason, you cover a lot of different disciplines with your role with the IOG. What would you have to say on that?
Well, I think the solving of the problems has come from the problems, and the more problems you can solve depends on how much money you've got to be able to solve those problems. And I think that's probably that's what drives everybody forward. Football are at the front now because we've got more money to solve the problems that they've got. But we've all got problems in different, or they've all got problems. Got to remember I'm on the other side of the fence now. They've all got problems in different way, shape or form, and that's how we're going to actually go forward in this industry. There are always going to be problems there. The next problem we'll be moving on to in not too distant future. We'll have to throw more money at it to be able to do it. And football is at the forefront at the minute, and they'll probably be leading going forward, followed by whoever's got the next largest amount of cash to be able to follow them. And that's what it is, being able to have that money to be able to solve that problem.
So that sets it up for you, I think, Darren.
Yeah, I think some of our technology is finding its way to golf. There's one golf club, I won't mention their name, but they're looking at Deso in some of their tee boxes.
Right, okay.
With a higher percentage of Deso than we would play football on, but in particular shaded areas. So certainly not saying they've been left behind or we lead the way. It's just what is the latest technology out there and how can you adapt it for other sports. I mean, years ago I took the light rig to one of our baby rigs to Trent Bridge ahead of a test match because of a particularly bad week of weather and it was a little bit damp. And we looked at controlled drying it out. So that was the first time we had taken light rigs into the cricket industry. And the way the game evolves, Stewie has pre-season nets and it's in an indoor tent on the outfield. It's like amazing. The spaceship has landed at Chelmsford and now they're turning their practicing.
Is that cheaper than taking them abroad, Stu?
It is, but it does bring other problems.
Yeah.
You know, you obviously get a lot of disease in there, so you have to control that. But we just found that it was a cost-effective way of.
But that's evolved, hasn't it, from the very first match
Yeah,
that went
but
on?
the problem with that, the other problem it creates is our season starts.
Yeah.
You know, we're covering from mid-Jan.
If you'd have said that 10 years ago, I thought you were mad.
Well, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, we started doing it 4 years ago, and people were like, what? And some of the other grounds weren't very impressed because you know it does elongate your real intense time. You know, it's put another month, 6 weeks on your finger there, and the hammering your ground gets. But we've got to move with the times. You know, the lighting rigs for football, but some of the lads think, oh, could be here all night.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to take forever. But look at the results.
It's a product.
Yeah, that's what we're about.
Lee, sorry, I cut across you.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry, we can edit that bit out.
No, I mean, I think maybe the illusion of the divide is that I guess IOG cover all the sports. I know they do cover a bit of golf, but because golf has its own body, as it were, it kind of feels like it sits separately. But I don't think that we do, and I think now, because we're pushing the envelope so hard now on performance of everything, that every time we make that big step, it's actually a big cost. And I think now what we have to do is we have to turn around and say, actually, has someone else done this before? Just to feel certain that we can actually get a payback. I think we're at a point now, who can afford to be the pioneers? Because it's great when we get the returns, but if we don't get the returns, someone's going to have to say, well, why has this failed? And that's cost me £500,000. And I think that's where I think maybe working together, sharing that information is even more important now.
Well, time's pressing on as ever, so we'll move on. Thanks a lot, guys, and thank you.